force for struggle, socialism, and soul. And as many of you know, we are continuing with our ongoing fundraiser, and Darker Than Blue's fundraising goal tonight is just $500. Can we count on you listeners to call us right now at 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739 and help us go over our goal and bring WPFW closer to our station goal? We really hope that you do. Listeners can also support WPFW by pledging at WPFWFM.org. Select Darker Than Blue in the drop-down list and select your donation amount. Or you can pledge to Cash App at $WPFW or through PayPal by clicking that button on the pledge form. Remember to put Darker Than Blue in the note.
And do you all realize that only about 8% of WPFW listeners even become members? Folks are just sitting at home or driving in their cars or on the bus, on the metro, listening happily to all of our content. And most people do not contribute to keep the content on the air. We friends have only $500 to raise. Darker Than Blue only has $500 to raise in the next hour, so we can change those numbers. If we can get, say, 5 new listeners to pledge $40, that would be $200 toward our goal. Or if we get 10 new listeners to pledge $25, that gets us $250 toward our goal. One person pledging $50 would be great, but so would 5 pledges of $10 or 2 of $25. You get what I'm saying. You can do this. You can help us reach our goal, go over our goal, and meet the goal of the station for this winter drive. We know there are people out there who can pledge 100, 200, 500, 1,000. But what if I told you, here's the great thing. What if I told you that you can be one of those people if you spread your pledge of $60 or more out over 12 months? That's right. So that means you can make that $100 pledge and spread the payment out over 12 months. But the payment isn't going to be $100. Guess what it's going to be? $8.33. 100 divided by 12. Round it up or down, you can make a pledge that way, or you can become what is called a sustainer by choosing to spread any pledge of $60 or more, which would be 1/12 of your pledge over many years in perpetuity until you decide to call PFW and cancel the payments. That's what a sustainer is. So you can make that $100 pledge and have it split out for $8.33 a month, not 800, $8.33 a month, and just let it ride. And you are a WPFW sustainer. So listen, we really need your help to keep WPFW on the air, to keep Darker Than Blue on the air. This is revolutionary radio for revolutionary times, like we have in store for you on Darker Than Blue every Friday, but on this Friday too. Take it away, Sean.
Absolutely. And Jacquie, I was sitting here thinking about how we really seem to be in a time of heightened solidarity and what I think is a sort of very vibrant moment in the anti-imperialist movement here in the United States. Now, of course, since October 7th, there have been demonstrations for Palestine in the streets of the U.S. Every week, all over the country. We're talking about demonstrations raising from hundreds to even thousands of people. And there have even been a couple of major demonstrations. On November 4th, 500,000 people came into the streets of D.C. March 2nd, there's going to be another nationwide day of action for Palestine, which is particularly important now, given Israel's threat of invasion in Rafah and all the bombing and death that has already happened there. But within all this fervor about Palestine, one thing that I've noted just from being at some of these demonstrations is how people are making a point to connect Palestine to other anti-colonial struggles. You hear chants like from DC to Palestine, or from Puerto Rico to Palestine, or from Haiti to Palestine, or from Niger to Palestine. Occupation is a crime. From Palestine to Mexico, all the walls have got to go. From Palestine to the Philippines, stop the U.S. war machine, making all these types of connections. But also, too, at least here in D.C., we've been seeing other solidarity movement demonstrations as well. This past weekend, there was a demonstration in support for the people of Sudan. Tomorrow here in DC, there will be a solidarity demonstration for the Congo. And there are a lot of connections that are flowing through that. But what I think people are really realizing more and more, Jackie, and I think it's important for us as organizers to highlight this, is that these struggles have more in common than just the kind of obvious or superficial anti-colonial aspect, right? Which I'm not trying to downplay. But what I think this also shows is how imperialism itself is being shown to be the primary contradiction facing poor, working, and oppressed people in the United States and indeed and around the world. I mean, we're talking about Sudan and how the U.S. supplies countries like the UAE with weapons and things like this that are often used against the Sudanese people. Of course, and I'm talking here about the RSF, and not to let the SAF off the hook at all, but just to give one example. But also I'm talking about the Congo and how U.S. tax dollars are being used to fuel the suffering of literally millions of people inside that country. I mean, the Congo has the highest number of internally displaced people in all of the African continent, and one of the largest populations of what's called IDPs around the world. And so when we look at the fact that imperialism is this core contradiction and the source of so much suffering for people all around the world, it's important to remember that imperialism emerges out of the capitalist system itself. As we've pointed out many times, Lenin has named imperialism as the highest stage of capitalism. And when we talk about political education and our organizing and trying to move consciousness forward, I think what we really have to be highlighting to people, Jackie, is the fact that, capitalism is in fact what's at the root of imperialism. And if we want to defeat imperialism once and for all, well, we'll have to ultimately defeat the capitalist system out of which imperialism grows, which in my opinion can only come about through a process of revolution. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And as we watch the horror in Gaza continue to play out, and I don't know about you, life itself it just be life, right? But being an organizer, you always realize how much worse imperialism has made this world for millions of people around the world. And being an organizer is very hard to just live regular life with this going on in Gaza. But it's also, it's compounded by understanding what's happening in the Congo and how it's connected, and that it is connected, right? What's happening in the Sahel and that it's connected. What's happening in Peru, and that it's connected, in Haiti, and that it's connected. People don't know that there is a huge a protest going on, and has been for a while, in the Congo. And I hope we'll be able to talk about that a little bit later. But there have also been protests in other countries like Burkina Faso, where they are trying to, just like Niger did, push out the imperialists, and Guinea-Bissau, if we recall, was the homeland of Amilcar Cabral. So this is, a Pan-African self-determinant revolution that has never really died, right? And it's just been revived because of that legacy of history, and because oppressed people don't ever stop wanting to be free, right? So, as we're watching this horror in Gaza continue to play out, we're also watching these people's movements in other places in the world. And I don't know how you've been feeling, Sean, because you have been just crazy busy, and I haven't been as busy because I've been recovering from surgery and all that kind of stuff, but kind of getting back into the swing of things. It's like you've had this time to rest, and then someone tells you, okay, time to go outside now, and you go downstairs and you open the door, and it's like all the animals are running towards you. The water hose is going off. There's a fissure opening up in the street. There's a tornado coming from the right, and there's a snowstorm coming. But all hell has broken loose. But the thing that is so encouraging, and I know that's very weird about all of this seeming chaos, is that people's movement, when people rise up against their government, to the people that the movement is a threat to, well, that always looks like chaos. That always looks like, oh my God, the world is going to end. And, we have to send the police and the National Guard, and we need to surveil, and we need to imprison, and all that kind of stuff. And what this moment looks like to me, Sean, is that, yes, younger people, and don't ask me to remember which generation is which. I'm Gen X, and that's all I remember. So, but younger people are picking up. They're not just picking up the torch. Y'all are picking up the stage. You're picking up the placards. You're picking up the handouts, and you're doing what we're doing. The lobby days, and confronting politicians on Capitol Hill, and different organizations are banding together to help each other do it. And we see, at least I see, particularly this weekend, this international coalition. I don't think we've gotten to the coalition stage yet, right? But we've gotten to the acknowledgement stage that all of these struggles, including the struggles of our people domestically, they are all connected. And the only way we can fight these people and win for good is to do it together. I think everybody involved in their individual struggle in their country understands that, as they are continuing to fight liberation struggles from 20, 30 years ago that never really died, that they were just thwarted because the revolutionaries actually won against the empire, against the settler colonialists on the continent of Africa in so many places. So the revolutionary spirit of the people has been dampened, it's been trampled, it's been subverted, it's been quieted, but it is not gone. And that is the thing that is exciting. It's invigorating. It is what's the word I'm looking for? It's inspirational. At the same time as I'm standing in the door and watching all of this stuff happen, going, how are we going to get this done? I don't have the answer for how we're going to get it done, other than we've won these battles before. So we're not going to have to reinvent the wheel. All we have to do is get out of our houses, out of our safe, comfortable places, and get out there in the streets and fight for everybody's freedom, and fight for the end to capitalism and imperialism, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm with you on the generation thing. It's like I'm a millennial. I know after me is Gen Z, but Gen Z is grown now. So I think after them, I think the generation is like Gen Alpha. I could be wrong about that.
I don't think nope. We're not calling any generation Gen Alpha. That's going to turn out bad. Nope.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it either. Like that, we know that term has some reactionary implications. But no, it's true, and we've seen a lot of young people, speaking of, be a part of this movement, like you said, Jackie. I mean, just this past week and in New York, I believe it was Friday, there were high schoolers that staged walkouts all over the country. Excuse me, not all over the country, but all over the city, walking out over Palestine. And one thing that I've noticed that I think is very promising for the movement is when you go to these demonstrations week after week, I'm noticing that more and more people are getting on the microphone and they're telling people explicitly that they need to join organizations.
Mm.
And I think that's always important, period. But I think in the cultural moment that we're in, it's particularly important because it's very easy, especially for young people who basically grow up with this technology and with these self-curated, platforms, social media, where you can be whoever you want. And it's something that really it can intensify the kind of individualism that's already inherent in capitalist culture, and I think becomes worse when we talk about neoliberalism, right? That there's this intensification of how isolated people feel. I think this can definitely happen with young people as well. And as we know, when it comes to struggle, when you feel like you're by yourself and you're just sort of imbibing and trying to process all of this bad news, all of these horrific images that we see coming from Gaza and these different places around the world, ongoing abuses in Haiti with the de facto unelected government of Dr. Ariel Henry, which again, excuse me, only has legitimacy because of its support by the US. And when you feel like you're taking all of that onto yourself, it can be too much. But I think we have to continue to raise the point in our organizing that, you are not alone, and that the best way to carry this struggle through is through a collective effort, which is best carried out through being a part of organizations. And so we can't be afraid to become a part of organizations, to become a part of movements, and deal with everything that comes with that, the contradictions and the conflicts that can sometimes come about. We can't shy away from this. I think we have to actually lean in to these things because, in my experience, it's out of that kind of creative collaboration, if you will, that some of the best things really comes from. But we can't be afraid to deal with each other, both inside and outside our organizations and movements, in an honest way. And so we really have to get people acquainted and comfortable with the idea of engaging in a long-term struggle, helping people understand that every social movement has its peaks, it has its valleys, its times of high engagement and activity, its times of lower engagement and activity, and helping people understand that these valleys, these periods of lower engagement where maybe things aren't as hot and people aren't in the streets every day, that is not necessarily a defeat, but that those are actually periods where our organizations and movements need to be strengthened and made even more disciplined. You know what I mean? And to carry out education. I mean, all these sorts of things that we can do to really build up our movements in so many ways can be done. I know in May in Detroit, there's going to be a national conference on Palestine, and there's a number of organizations that have already signed on. And at this point, I mean, we're just at the end of February. We don't know what will happen with Palestine or with Gaza or with the movement between then and now. But either way, I think it's very wise to sort of have this convening and a coming together of the minds to really plot the course of where the movement will go from here. Because one thing that I find as a constant, Jacquie, whether we're talking about excuse me, whether we're talking about the movement to free Palestine, whether we're talking about the movement for Black lives, whether we're talking about the movement to end the war in Iraq way back in 2003 and things like that. There always comes this moment of, well, where do we go from here? You know what I mean? And did the movement, quote unquote, work and all of these sorts of things if we demonstrated and didn't get the kind of a response that maybe some felt like we should have? We have to always return to the fact that organization is the core question. And if we're wise, then we'll keep returning to that. But
Absolutely.
Speaking of these developments in geopolitics, we're happy to be joined by our first guest for today, International Affairs and Security Analyst Mark Sloboda. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
John, Jacquie, thanks for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on the show.
Honor and
Absolutely.
a pleasure to have
you. It's an honor to have you.
Yep.
And, Mark, here recently, one Alexei Navalny actually died while in prison in Russia. And this is someone who was presented to the American people and the West as basically a pro-democracy activist, someone who is an opposition figure to Vladimir Putin. Matter of fact, Reuters stated pretty flatly that, quote, there are no other opposition leaders in Russia of Navalny's stature. Former U.S. President Barack Obama kind of eulogized Navalny on Twitter, saying, quote, he described him as a fearless advocate for his beliefs who died unbroken by the tyranny he opposed. He fought corruption, inspired millions, and never wavered in his insistence on free expression, the rule of law, and a Russia that is accountable to the people and not a dictator. He died in unyielding defense of his vision of a better future for his country, a vision and a courageous example that will never die. And I mean, incumbent President Joe Biden has met with the widow and the daughter of Navalny. And so, I believe he even got like a Netflix special made about him. And so, Mark, I was hoping you could help us understand, just who was Alexei Navalny and what was his role in Russian politics?
Yeah, okay, so first of all, there's no other candidates of Navalny, opposition candidates of Navalny's stature in Russia. Navalny, by his own organization's polling, at the height of his popularity years ago, polled 2% approval in the country. 2% support. 2%. Now, the actual opposition parties in Russia, the Communist Party of the Russian Federation, polls somewhere between 15 and 20% of the population. The Liberal Democratic Party of Russia, not really liberal, not really democratic, more a cult of a personality around a now dead political figure, Vladimir Zhirinovsky, polled somewhere between 10 and 15%. And there's numerous other smaller parties like A Fair Russia, Social Democratic Party, and other smaller ones that all had real support within this country. But you see, none of those parties were pro-Western. So they don't count as real opposition as far as Washington, D.C. is concerned. Alexei Navalny is, you presented it, the way he is whitewashed, rebranded, and heroized in the Western media as some kind of democracy activist and anti-corruption crusader. If you look back far enough, you will actually find some articles about who and what he really is, how he got his start in Russian politics. Well, first of all, he was groomed specifically as a future world leader with a Yale fellowship that they threw at him in 2010. Supposedly, this was acquired with John McCain's support, right? So, because Yale is where you groom future world leaders, right? Not in their own countries. But he became famous as a self-proclaimed Russian ethnic nationalist, an ultra-nationalist. He headlined Russian nationalist marches in the country. You can still find pictures out there, plenty of him in front of the black, white, and yellow monarchist imperial flag of the Romanov Empire, and leading crowds of people, whom among them a lot of neo-Nazis and fascists. Right now, I would not characterize Navalny himself exactly as a fascist. He was a nationalist. He was a political opportunist, and above all, he was pro-American. He was a xenophobe, a racist, anti-immigrant, bigot, an ultranationalist, a neoliberal, that was his economic policies, and a gun nut. By any, he favored the legalization of guns, in Russia, like the rules in the United States, where everyone can have a gun. What I think is most important to understand about him is that he would do and say whatever it took to win people's approval, but he never recanted or repented from these beliefs. He was asked twice, specifically in fawning softball interviews by Western journalists, by The Guardian in 2017 and by Der Spiegel in 2020, to recant and repent his earlier far-right views. Tell us you don't really mean them, right? Or that you have changed. And he said, no, I regret nothing. He refused to. He ran commercials, political commercials in the country, right? On the internet. I think he got them on TV at the time as well, depicting the people of the South Caucasus in Russia, whom racists use a very similar word to that racists use to describe African Americans in the United States. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
He ran commercials depicting them, in one commercial, as cockroaches and himself as the exterminator. Another commercial depict at himself as a dentist, depicting the ethnic peoples of the South Caucasus as cavities that needed to be removed. And he suggested the best way to go about this, dealing with this problem of these non-ethnic Russian peoples in Russia, was to hand out guns to all the white ethnic Russians. By any stretch of the imagination, he would be considered in any other country a loathsome far-right figure. But he was anti-Putin and pro-US, and that's all that matters. The US has a long history, unquestionable, of supporting extremists all around the world when it supports their geopolitical interests, right? Right-wing dictators and death squads in Latin America, Wahhabist jihadis in Afghanistan in the 80s, and then in Libya and Syria, Marxist, leftist, extreme YPG, Kurdish YPG in Syria also, whom the U.S. still supports in a proxy regime in East Syria to facilitate their occupation, their ongoing illegal military occupation of the country there. Banderite fascists in Ukraine, and the far-right ultranationalist Alexei Navalny in Russia. Now, this is not what you're presented, but quite clearly, the history is there. It's just been an attempt to paper over and whitewash it. And when he was asked about these beliefs, oh, you believed that once, but you no longer believe it now, right? He said, no, I regret nothing. So that's who the man is. He was serving prison terms, actually, though, for nothing related to his political work. He was also a bit of a grifter, a petty criminal, and he was convicted for fraud under accusations from the French cosmetics firm Yves Rocher among others, and they're quite vociferous about that. They were quite angry about being bilked out of a considerable chunk of change by him and his brother in a scam. Later, he was accused of political extremism, and let me talk specifically about what political extremism. He was accused essentially of being a Western, a CIA and MI6 intelligence asset. Now, there was evidence presented at his trial that was not revealed to the public, his second trial, because it would interfere with ongoing intelligence assets that Russia had access to. But there was a video released to the public of Vladimir Asherkov, his close friend, top lieutenant, and the executive director of Navalny's Anti-Corruption Foundation, in a meeting with a known MI6 agent in Moscow, who was undercover then as a diplomat. It's long acknowledged that he's an MI6 agent. And Asherkov, Navalny's second, basically, asked him straight up for $10 or $20 million a year for, I quote, propaganda and to stage mass protests in Moscow. Now, obviously, these people were working in the interests of the United Kingdom and of course, the United States. Navalny never, of course, did, when this video was released, never spoke against it, never removed Asherkov from his position. It was quite clear, in line with their work. They were not really ashamed or abashed to be caught out as Western intelligence. And that's what they were there for. Now, the US, the CIA, Navalny himself was never really any threat, right, to Russia, to the Russian president, alone by of himself. But I myself, and I assume the Kremlin as well, have a healthy respect for the wider abilities of the CIA to do what they do, which is to incite and exacerbate existing ethnic, religious, and political tensions in a targeted country, and use them as tools of U.S. foreign policy interests towards destabilization and ideally some type of color revolution regime change. Navalny, the dream of Navalny, the fantasy that never had any real chance of being fulfilled, was that he, as someone who could speak to the far right and to the pro-Western liberals, could launch an unholy union of the two and use them, staging mass street protests, to eventually overthrow a government that, because of its wide popular support, couldn't be voted out of office. Now, it's no coincidence that this Project Navalny looks very much like what happened on the Maidan in Ukraine. The Banderite fascists, the far right, and the pro-Western liberals. This was a strategy that was deliberately engaged on and groomed years ahead of time for this purpose. And it was much more successful in Ukraine than it was in Russia, because there were far more West Ukrainian Banderite fascists and more pro-Western liberals than there are in Russia. But that was the goal. So myself, he was anti-immigrant. He was, racist. The connection between liberals in Russia and the political beliefs don't really line up very well, right? Liberals in Russia have neoliberal economic beliefs matched with very ill-suiting liberal social views. But ultimately, they despise the non-Russian ethnic peoples of Russia. And remember, there are some 200 indigenous ethnic groups in Russia, right? You all think of Russians as white and blonde or brunette hair, but that's not at all true. There are lots of different Asians, Islamics, Buddhists, Siberian pagan peoples, right? Russia is a very multi-ethnic, multi-confessional country. Liberals in Russia view these Asiatic peoples as a millstone around their neck, that they have a natural tendency, this propagated myth from Western media and commentary, that Asiatic peoples have a natural tendency to support dictators and strongmen. And if it wasn't for these ethnic peoples, they would be able to join their rightful destiny as a normal European people. That's why you scratch a Russian liberal and you have a far-right racist like Alexei Navalny. And that's can and have been often combined together in Russia for the purpose of U.S. geopolitical interest.
I think, can you hear us, Mark?
All right.
It just wasn't ultimately successful. He died in prison. I don't know whether the CIA and during he was more useful to them as a martyr than as a living prisoner in prison. He wasn't doing any good to them. Or the Russian government deciding to take advantage of the already bad political situation between the West and Russia, de facto at war, over the conflict in Ukraine, to finally take a Western intelligence asset off the board. Kiev could have taken him out. They've done lots of assassinations in Russia and many, many more in East Ukraine already to further demonize Russia and to try to get more Western military and political support. Varkin is the boyfriend of Navalny's wife. They've been living together. Lots of salacious pictures of the two of them together over the recent years. It could actually have had personal motives. Or maybe he just passed away. He had a myriad of health problems, and Occam's razor, he simply could have died in prison. As an immigrant to Russia, and Navalny hated immigrants, as
I think Mark's audio is catching up here with him.
Yeah, he's frozen.
I feel
okay.
He's frozen.
Okay. Oh yeah, Mark. I think we may have lost you. They want to think. Oh, go ahead.
I feel much safer now that he's gone, and I want to be perfectly honest about that.
Yeah, definitely. And Mark, we thank you so much for coming on today. We know it's late where you are, and we want to remind folks to support our.
I feel safer for me, my family, and my country, knowing he's gone permanent.
Okay, I think we're having some tech issues here. We want to thank Mark Sloboda so much for joining us today. We want to remind folks about our pledge drive that they can call at 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. And we'd actually like to bring on our next guest, Kambale Musabuli, an activist, writer, and analyst with the Center for Research on the Congo Kinshasa. Kambale, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing me to speak about the Congo. Pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. And Kambale, Jean-Michel Sama Lukande, who's the prime minister of the DRC, resigned from his post this week, which triggered the dissolution of the government. And according to reports, Lukande gave his resignation to President Felix Tshisekedi during this same period. And of course, this is all happening with the ongoing, seemingly intensified war on the Congo with different armed groups like the M23 sort of carrying out all kinds of violence against other Congolese people and the social movements. I mean, the Congo right now, I believe, dealing with something like 6 million internally displaced people, which according to the UN Refugee Agency gives it the highest population of IDPs on the African continent and one of the largest in the world. And so I was hoping you could help us understand how this context, this violence coming from groups like the M23 is reflected in sort of the internal politics from the Congo as well.
It's actually quite fascinating. The resignation of the prime minister is not coming from a negative situation where he may be disagreeing with the president or some internal battle, right? It's around the, I don't know if I should call it a hypocrisy, but more so the farce of the electoral process in DRC. The prime minister ran for office. He actually ran to be a member of parliament. And at the end of the electoral process, he was declared the winner for the constituency where he ran. But at the same time, he refused to actually step down from his office. So this matter was taken to the Constitutional Court, whereby the Constitutional Court stated that any government official who has run for any office and has been elected cannot hold two offices. And his argument when the announcement was made by the Constitutional Court was that he did not want to resign because there are still matters to be addressed as the prime minister, since we don't have yet a nomination of a new prime minister. So this happened through pressure, right? In the internal contradiction that's happening in the Congo, where people on the ground are still dealing with bourgeois politics, pressure mounted on the prime minister that either he's an MP or he's a prime minister. He cannot be paid for the same position, from two positions as a government official. He needs to choose one. That is why he submitted his resignation to the president. But there is a bigger force than the resignation of the prime minister. It's for people to really understand how the Congolese political scene actually run. When I'm talking about political scene, I'm referring to the electoral process. In Congo today, the constitution has changed where someone can run for president, for member of parliament, and for some local offices in the same ballot. So if I had to use the US context, I would say, think about Joe Biden running for president, running for Senate, and then running for state senator at the same time, during the same time. So for example, in the Congo, we had 26 presidential candidates, right? And many of those presidential candidates, while they were on the presidential ballot, they were also on other ballots for legislative and local. And this is how I'll call it mercantilism happens, where our politicians are blackmailing different parts of the bourgeoisie for political power. So as you look at the rigged election that took place and the results that were given, you will notice that among the 26 candidates, only 4 of them had more than 10%. The rest had below 5%. And you ask yourself, we actually had a presidential candidate with 4,000 votes, right? His name is Constant Mutamba. And with his vote, he also ran for local, becoming an MP. And I don't think many places around the world people know actually this is happening. This is why we've been very loud and clear in denouncing the farce that this called the electoral process in DRC, because it's not an electoral process. It's actually a selection process amongst the elite, amongst the bourgeoisie, who right now are sharing the biggest pie, which is the government of the Congo. This is why in the Congo, the Congolese people continue to fight their own government, while they also fight the external factors that's also causing the conflict in DRC. That brings us to the situation in the eastern part of DRC. In the Congo, millions have died. Millions have been displaced. The root cause of the conflict in the Congo has been the control of Congo's vast mineral wealth, whereby its neighbors, Rwanda and Uganda, invaded the Congo in 1996, in 1998, and since 2002, when they officially withdrew the troops from the Congo, they continue to support proxy rebel militias. In the press, they will call them M23 today. I am very clear that tomorrow they may change their name. And even when I'm saying that tomorrow they may change their name, they already call themselves ARC. They even created a new alliance called Alliance Fleuve Congo. So in a few years, we may not call them the M23. We'll think that there is a new rebel group in the DRC. In 2009, they were called the CNDP. In 2004, 2002, 2004, they were called RCD. And even in 1996, they were called the AFDL. These rebels who changed names, just as Blackwater changed his name to Z, are the same rebels rebranding themselves to confuse us about who they are. But what we are clear, they are Rwandan government proxy in the Congo who are armed, equipped, financed by Rwanda, and Rwanda, by extension, is supported militarily, financially by US taxpayers' money. So M23 has started this uprising for the past 2 to 3 years. They have displaced more people. They are presenting claims about what they are doing, what they're doing in displacing population, but no one is holding Rwanda accountable. In the height of this conflict, just this past week, the EU Commissioner for International Relations and Programs, right, has just signed an agreement with the Rwandan government to access what she said on a Twitter page, which is now X, that Rwanda has rich mineral resources needed for the green transition, and that the EU is signing an agreement to have access to these minerals. And we know what are these critical minerals needed by EU. They are the cobalt, they are the lithium, they are the coltan. And we know for sure that Rwanda does not have the volume of minerals that they sell at the international market, where today they are the #1 producer of coltan in the world, knowing very well they don't have that reserve, and the EU is supporting that. And it moves to even what has happened in the Congo with the uprising of the M23. There is a consciousness that's happening with the Congolese where they've been organizing protests. Today, there was a protest at the EU representation in Kinshasa because of what I just shared. For the past few weeks, there have been protests in front of the United States Embassy in Kinshasa, where Congolese burned the US flag. There have been protests in front of the French Embassy, where Congolese burned the French flag. They've even burned the EU flag as well. And they've also been protests in front of the UK Embassy. What are the Congolese people saying? Why are they protesting in front of those embassies and not Rwanda's embassy? Well, the Congolese government has already closed the Rwandan embassy for the past almost 2 years now. The Rwandan embassy is not operating in Congo anymore. When the M23 launched its operations, that was one of the actions that the Congolese government took. But two, The Congolese are becoming much more clear that they see the hypocrisy of the West. How so? The United States put out a statement asking Rwanda to stop supporting rebel groups in the Congo, which means that they have evidence that Rwanda is supporting rebel groups in Congo. Yet, they don't take any actions against their ally on the African continent, Rwanda. So the Congolese are understanding, just as what happened with King Leopold over 100 years ago, how the United States supported King Leopold for the control of the Congo. The United States today is supporting the King Leopold of 2024, who is called today Paul Kagame. So they are going in front of the US Embassy, they are going in front of the French Embassy, and they are saying in their own words that the imperialist forces must leave the Congo and close the embassy. They are the ones arming Rwanda. They are the one equipping Rwanda. They are the one providing political cover, diplomatic cover, and financial support to Rwanda. And Rwanda supports rebels causing the deaths of millions in the Congo. So they are going to the source and denouncing the imperialists while also fighting the local compradors. So that's what has been unfolding in the past few weeks in the DRC. It's a tough battle. While these protests are taking place, what stays in my mind are the videos and the photos of our Congolese brothers and sisters who are living in refugee camps in their own country. That reminds me of the footages, the images that I saw when our brothers and sisters in Louisiana during the Katrina hurricane, how the government abandoned the people, our people in the United States during Katrina, and we saw how people were affected. These are the images I'm seeing from Congolese on the ground. They had their homes, they had to be displaced because of this militia group that's threatening to take the city of Goma of 2 million people, and they have to live in the bush in the rain. It's the rainy season in the Congo. Children, 2-3-year-old, in tents in the rain while the world is watching this genocide taking place in Congo. But Congolese are resisting. They are organizing protests around the world. This Saturday, in many cities around the world, there are protests in support of the Congolese. The Free Congo protest movement is ongoing right now. People will be protesting in Paris. The Congolese diaspora are organizing that. There is another one in Brussels, another one in Geneva. There is one happening this Saturday also on the 24th in Washington, D.C., in front of the Rwandan embassy. And Congolese are calling to the world, just as our football players, our soccer players did during the African Cups of Nations. It's saying that there is a silence around the genocide in the Congo. Congolese everywhere are lifting their voice and calling for solidarity as we fight to end the genocide in our country.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And, I really appreciate you providing all of that context, Kambali. It really helps to clarify what we're seeing in the DRC. And I just want to reiterate what you were talking about for those in the DC area. There will be a solidarity protest with the Congo tomorrow, February 24th, 1 p.m. at the Embassy of Rwanda. That's at 1714 New Hampshire Avenue Northwest in Washington, D.C. That's 1714 New Hampshire Avenue Northwest. I intend to be there myself. Kambale, me and Jacquie started the show talking about how, in the U.S., it feels like we're in kind of a heightened period of solidarity with much of it centering around Palestine. But we're also seeing demonstrations around Sudan and in the Congo, like we are discussing. And I think that's really important in a moment like this, where the contradictions of capitalism are becoming more and more sharp and becoming more and more pronounced and are becoming more and more, I think, apparent to people who may not have necessarily been aware of these dynamics before. And particularly in the U.S., how we continue to see precious resources really being stolen from us and being put towards these projects of genocide and atrocity against other people. And as such, I think it's very important that we keep the Congo firmly within our consciousness, if you will, when it comes to that anti-imperialist organizing. Well, we want to thank you, Kambale, so much for joining us today. Also want to thank our other guest, Mark Sloboda, for joining us here on Darker Than Blue on WPFW in Washington, D.C. And we will see you next time. Peace.
Stop sharing. Okay. Hey, can you still hear me? Da. We still here? Y'all still here? Oops. Fantastic. All right. So that's what my Fridays are going to be like. Let me make sure I've disconnected from WPFW because we don't want to hear that other show. So yeah, okay, y'all. This is thanks a lot for bearing with me trying to figure out this damn audio issue with sharing the Zoom link to StreamYard. And I had to do that because the studio at WPFW, they only use Zoom and Skype. So there was the only way I could share it with you all was to upload it later on, which I just don't want to do that. When I'm done working, I'm going down the refrigerator. Well, first I'm going across the hall to the bedroom to put on my pajam jams. And then I'm going down to the refrigerator and I'm getting a beer. And then I'm getting my French fries and I'm turning the lights off in this room, turning off this computer and watching television until tomorrow morning when I have so much stuff to do. It's actually not so much stuff. It's just because I haven't been doing anything. I've been recuperating from surgery since November 15th, and I have not been doing anything. So it's been very strange for me. And I have been going through kind of just emotional weirdness when you thank you Z Existential, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Still here for you, Jay Luqman. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. No 2Fs. I actually I decided to try Yunling, and I don't know why. I just wanted to try something different, and I think I like Yunling better than Stella Artois. I might try Blue Moon next. The last time I had Blue Moon, it was like, yeah, that's hop tasting water. That's not really. And then my all-time favorite had always been Rolling Rock, but for some reason it's kind of hard to find Rolling Rock in bottles now. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I keep going to the liquor store in the hood. I don't know. But yeah, that's my thing. That's my Friday night. What do you call it? My routine, my relaxation routine, because I have a really hard time relaxing. I don't do it well. I never have because I'm always busy. I always have a full schedule. I've always got 4 or 5 things that are due at the same time that I agree to, and that's just how I was used to operating, and that's that's fine. But actually, it's not fine, right? It's very bad for you. It is not healthy for you to be that busy, and of course, I didn't realize that until I didn't have to be that busy, and I've been sitting at home and trying to get back into the groove of things, organizing with BAP and everything, and trying to really get up for this year's activities and making sure everything is organized and on the right track for all of these activities that we have planned, that we know we're going to do, and a whole bunch of other stuff that pops up that is like, ooh, that's a nice to have if we could be able to do that. So there's all of that I'm doing, and that's actually not a lot. That's actually a very small fraction of the busyness that I dealt with before the surgery. So, there was the job, there was church stuff, there was, just supporting other people in organization. And, since November, it has been, no, you go home and lay down. That's what you do. You go home and you find a comfy spot, you find something good to watch on television, read some books and sleep. You sleep a lot. And I have been sleeping a lot. It kind of made me nervous a little bit because I was like sleeping until 2 o'clock almost every day. And and I would get up and I would be like, oh, why did I stay in the bed for so long? But then I had to kind of think, where do I have to go? I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have a job to go to. I don't have a job to go to. I do this little thing of ours on Black Power Media Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday if I'm feeling okay and if I don't have a doctor's appointment at 8 o'clock in the morning. I do this with Sean on Fridays at 5 o'clock, and an hour is not enough, but we don't control any of that. So this is why the Luqman Nation will take up the space after Darker Than Blue. So wait a minute, what's smut book? Not smut books. Why? I mean, I don't have anything against smut books. I just don't have anywhere to keep books that are not for study. And trust me, I don't need any study on smut. So I've had to get used to, since November, not doing anything. That is very hard, and that has caused me some anxiety. Not having a job, losing my health insurance, not sure what's going on with Social Security because they take forever just to make a decision. I've had to ask for people to help me pay the mortgage. I don't I'm not used to that. I am not used to getting up in the morning and not having anywhere to go and not having anything to do and not having anybody need me do anything. And I just, I have a psychiatrist, and I'm just hearing from her that, you're not supposed to be doing anything now. She's just like, I don't understand why you're mad. You should lay in bed. And she said the thing that I can never say. I have such a hard time saying I deserve anything. That is the hard part of all of this. Because I know that a lot of this is excuse me needing a level of rest and recuperation that I couldn't have gotten if I had a job, if I was doing all this other stuff, if I didn't have to have this surgery, because I wasn't taking care of myself. And as much as I loved everything I was doing, wasn't sleeping well. I was eating like crap, wasn't drinking enough water and all that kind of stuff. So I really needed this, however many months this is going to take for me to be fully healed. I really need that. And a part of that necessity for me is not being as busy organizing, which is very hard for me to do. It's very hard. But my body frequently reminds me, there's a reason I'm tired, because I'm still connecting all these things on the inside. And then you still got your synapses have not even recovered from the surgery. Because that when you go through a major surgery like that, and they put you on a ventilator, they, have the ventilator breathing for you, they're slowing down your heart rate, they're doing all this kind of stuff. Your brain, pretty much, it doesn't get taken offline, but it is really relaxed, like really. And once you recover, not only does your body and your synapses have to, your nerves, your skin, your organs, all of that has to heal, but so does your brain. So does your brain have to heal from operating at a very low level for like 4 hours for this surgery, and then being ramped back up right after the surgery, and then kind of getting used to living a normal life with all of these changes internally and externally, all of the medication. And, thank God I don't really have any food restrictions, because I would lose my mind if they told me I couldn't have potatoes and oranges and bananas at this point, because I'm like, y'all, is this too much? But wait, oh, Ricky, wait a minute. He has a masquerade ball tonight. Huh? Really? We expect pictures. We expect pictures. And are you masquerading balling too? I'm just asking. Just asking. So yeah, so that's how I think I'm gonna be able to do this without putting myself through the ringer like I know I should not. I will have Luqman Nation right after Darker Than Blue, because we're already connected and everything, so there's nothing to connect. So that's the good part, and really appreciate y'all hanging out with us. And no, we did not reach our fundraising goal, but I'm hoping some people drop some money on a Cash App, and I'm not real stressed out about it because this was our very first pledge drive, and as much as people love WPFW, people kind of hate the pledge drives, because PFW has had to do them more frequently. I think they started doing it like once a year, and then it went up to twice a year. Then it's now I think it's 3 times a year. And people are like, look, we don't have any more money. But the truth is that, I mean, what they say about listeners to the station is very true. So many people listen to WPFW in the Washington, D.C. area, but only 8% of the listeners actually financially support the station. And that's not good. That's bad. The station only pays the admin staff, and the producers, I believe. The content creators, we don't get paid. This is a labor of love for us, what we do on WPFW. So the big old radio tower that the station had to buy 2-3 years ago, there were no commercials, there were no sponsors, there were no corporate sponsors that paid for that radio tower. Listeners paid for the radio tower. Listeners keep WPFW on the air. So just because the pledge drive is over for Darker Than Blue, it doesn't mean it's over. You can still go to WPFW, the pledge sheet, WPFW.org, and click Darker Than Blue as the station you want to pledge for, and send in your pledge. Anything over $60 can be spaced out. I think it's $60 and over, can be spaced out over either a year, just 1 year. So $60 would be $8.33. No, $100 would be $8.33. But if you want to become a sustainer, then you could pledge $100 and space it out over 1/12 of the amount of the pledge. And that's $8.33 that you could pay to WPFW as an ongoing pledge until you call us and tell us to shut it off. So it's not just broken up over a year, it's 1/12 of your pledge that you pay to the station in perpetuity until you don't want to or can't anymore. So there are plenty of ways. Cash App, $WPFW, PayPal. If you go to the pledge form and click on the PayPal button at the top of the pledge form, you can submit a payment or a pledge through that way. You can do it through the pledge form, or you could call WPFW. And if you don't remember the numbers, 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. And even though our show is off the air now, you can still call during somebody else's show and say that you want to pledge for Darker Than Blue. I really appreciate that. We really appreciate it. The station appreciates it. And hopefully, with successful pledge drives, maybe Darker Than Blue will be able to do a longer show. Hey, you never know. anything can happen if you're just willing to try. So, all right, that's it. Thanks so much, Alex. I am recovering really well. Yeah, I was surprised by that 8% too. That's crazy. I mean, I can drive or walk or catch public transit anywhere in DC at any time, and I can hear people listening to WPFW, and to realize most of the people who are listening do not financially support the station. Station has no commercials, no sponsors, George Soros is not giving us money. How do I know that? Because George Soros haven't given me my money from 2016 and 2020. That's why. I'm still waiting for my check for George Soros. Shoot, man, especially now. Anyway, thank you, Alex Marquez. Thank you so much. I am recovering pretty well. Went bowling last Sunday to celebrate a comrade's birthday with my comrades in BAP. And oh my God, we had such a good time. And I bowled for the first time, certainly for the first time since the surgery, and probably for the first time in like 2-3 years, maybe. Yeah, no, it's been like 4 years. And I love to bowl. I'm not great at it. I'm kind of good with the technique, but still kind of shaky because I'm healing and all this kind of good stuff. But I had a great time bowling. And we had dinner afterward, and I felt good. I didn't use a really heavy ball. You know how you have to scoot down a little bit. I didn't feel a lot of discomfort in the area of the surgery. But when I woke up Monday morning, my knees, my Beanie Boy, the kidney, they were like, Heifer, what exactly were you thinking? What is that you were doing for an hour? What, excuse me. That's all right. We know what's going to happen. You're going to stay in this bed. And that's what I did. So, I'm learning that I do have some stamina, some strength to build up, some energy to build up, but that's okay. I am here. I am still here. I went to my doctor's appointment this morning. Got my blood drawn. I haven't had a chance to look at my blood or my blood work yet, but my nurse practitioner hasn't called me to adjust my medication or to change anything. So that is a great sign that all my numbers look good. So that's great. So, and then I don't have to go back to the doctor again to get my lab work done for another whole month. I am so excited because let me tell you, when I tell you I don't like driving across town to go to Georgetown, I don't. I like Georgetown University Hospital. It really is. They earned their reputation. But driving up to that hospital, it is in Northwest, way upper Northwest. And I'm over here in the hood. So if there weren't weather, and it doesn't matter what kind of weather it is. It can be rain, it can be sun, shiny sun, it can be wind, snow. It doesn't matter. If there's weather, it is going to take me damn near an hour to get there. If there were no traffic on the streets, a good 40 minutes I can get there. It's just on the other side of the city. It's a big hospital. It's confusing. They just built a bunch of new a new wing to the hospital. And it's a little confusing. So I'm very happy to not have to go there every week is what it started out as. After the kidney transplant surgery, I had to get my labs drawn after the surgery. Like when they released me from the hospital, the next day that they released me from the hospital, now it was actually 2 days because I was released from the hospital on Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday, I had to go to the transplant center to get my labs done. And I had to do that 2 days a week for the first 2 weeks. Yeah, the first 2 weeks, the rest of November. So then in December, it was just once a week. Then January, it was down to twice a week. And now it's February, and I'm a little bit on the early side, but still, it's great that I don't have to they usually have people coming in once a month, starting the first week in March. But because I'm doing well and I'm progressing pretty well, pretty quickly, they have released me to only need to come up there once a month to get my lab work drawn. Oh, I'm so excited. So that doesn't really mean that I can travel by plane or anything. I still can't do long distance travel yet because anything can happen in the time between now and the next time I have to go to the lab, and I need to be close to the transplant hospital that performed the surgery in case anything happens. So no travel for me until maybe April, hopefully May, because that's May Day, and I got to be in Cuba for May Day. Where else is a decent, self-respecting revolutionary supposed to be on May 1st, um, or May 5th? I think it is. No, May 1st. Sorry. Yeah. So where else am I supposed to be? And then of course I have to go to Colombia, and then I have to go. Um, let's see, where else do I have to go? I have to go to Venezuela. I have to go to Cartagena too. And I may have to go to Cartagena twice because I was supposed to be spending Cartagena in Christmas with my friend Leanne, who lives in the UK. But I can't do that. And then I wanted to go to Colombia and Nicaragua and Costa Rica with my comrade Yane, but can't do that because that's where she's in Costa Rica right now on the way to Colombia. So can't do that. So yeah, I'm just going to be angry that I can't go anywhere really, really fun until probably late April, May. And then when that happens, y'all ain't gonna see me for a minute. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna tell you, I'm gonna be gone. I'm not gonna be here for a minute, at least for a month when I don't have to have any blood work done by then. So that's the deal. So stay tuned for uh, Imprint of Imperialism, Blackonomically Speaking, and the Black Labor Bulletin from 6 to 7 o'clock. Right here on Luqman Nation on Fridays at Black Power Media. Just really, really glad to be able to get this done again. So fantastic. So I'm so glad that you all hung out with me for a little bit. I am now going to go put my pajam jams on. I'm going to go get my beer, my French fries left over from lunch, and some snacks. And I'm going to watch some movies. And I'm going to get up and have a meeting in the morning, go to a protest at 1 o'clock, come back, work to finalize the protest that we are organizing on Monday. Oh, excuse me. And let me just run down what we've got going on here, because it's a lot, and I'm not going to be able to keep it all. I'm not going to be able to keep it all. There we go. Now, how come you wouldn't do that last week? It's a damn WhatsApp thing. Okay, so tomorrow, as you heard Kambale Musavuli with Friends of the Congo talk about on Darker Than Blue, there is a solidarity protest for with the Congo tomorrow. And people will be convening in front of the Rwandan embassy at 1 o'clock here in Washington, D.C. That's the Rwandan embassy at 1 o'clock. Where is the Rwandan embassy? Let me look that up for you. It is 1714 New Hampshire Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C., 2009. That's the Rwandan embassy. I'm going to drop it in the chat for you if you are in the area and are able to attend. And they're going to be marching from the Rwandan embassy to the White House after the rally at the Rwandan embassy. I will probably go down to the White House and meet folks there. Because we do have a BAP meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I can guarantee you we're not going to be done. So, so if you can make it out, please come out tomorrow to the Rwandan Embassy at 1714 New Hampshire Avenue Northwest in Washington, D.C. to be in solidarity with the people in the Congo. And I'll see you either there or at the Washington, what is it place called? The White House. Yeah. I think I was about to start call it not the Washington Monument. I meant the White House. Okay, so we have that going on. What else? What else is there? There's so much. Where'd my little thing go? There it is. There is also window. Let's do this again. Let's go back. All right. Then on Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. at Nomu Nomu, which is 709 Howard Street in Baltimore, Maryland. BAP Baltimore is hosting, and the BAP Haiti Americas team is presenting a movie screening in solidarity with Haiti on Aristide and the Endless Revolution, followed by discussion of the current conditions of Haiti. That is again Sunday night, February 25th from 7 to 9 p.m. at Nomu Nomu. That's at 709 Howard Street in Baltimore, Maryland. And if you go, not only will you have childcare provided, masks are required and provided, but you will also be served Haitian food, delicious Haitian food. See, we teach, but we also satisfy. Yes. So that's Sunday. Let's see what else. This is Monday. BAP Mid-Atlantic, Baltimore, and BAP DC are working in solidarity with the All African People's Revolutionary Party and the PAIGC in Guinea-Bissau to hold a demonstration at the African Union Mission to the USA on February 26th. That's Monday at 12 p.m. The African Union Mission to the USA is at 1649 Wisconsin Avenue Northwest. We'll be convening there at 12 p.m. on Monday, February 22nd. Thank you, Goddess, and PACA as well, Pan-African Community Action. I'm going to be calling a bunch of our organizational comrades later on this evening and tomorrow afternoon, and getting some other speakers to come out and join us and to really make some noise and be in solidarity for the people in Guinea-Bissau who are demanding that the National Assembly, the People's National Assembly, be opened. And the People's National Assembly was the coalition government that the people of Guinea-Bissau voted on, which was convened by Amilcar Cabral's party, the PAIGC. So now that the PAIGC has this coalition that the people voted for, no, we're not gonna open the assembly and all this kind of stuff. Oh, Jesus Christ. No. So we got to be in solidarity with our people. We're carrying on the legacy of Amilcar Cabral, continuing his work. So if you can come out and support, we hope to see you on Monday afternoon at 12 p.m. February 26th at the African Union Mission to the USA, 1649 Wisconsin Avenue Northwest. And that is to demand that Guinea-Bissau open the People's National Assembly. So there's that. Whew. Yeah, I know. I got the BAP announcements of the program. Is everything I didn't have time to say is darker than blue. Because I think we learned this time, this very first time, that we probably can't do the interviews and the pledge drive at the same time, because you always have to be doing the pledge pitches and watching your pledge tally, to see if you've gotten close to your pledge or not. And yeah, we just weren't good at that because we were just having such a good time just being on the air. So, okay. So then This is what's this, Tuesday? But yes, Tuesday, February 27th from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. How about, in honor of Black History Month, how about let's have a real discussion about Palestine and Africa and its historical relationship? A lot of people talking a lot of yin yang about, oh, why should Africans care about Palestine? We ain't got nothing to do with those people. Oh, it's so painful what we don't know about our own history and what our own ancestors, who we're supposed to be taught by. Folks went around talking about Asada taught me. Did she? Did she? Because I don't see how she did. And you have these messy views about Palestine that you do. So this will be the Black Alliance for Peace Mid-Atlantic. Which basically it's DC, because this is not Baltimore this time, but it's at Montgomery College. And I can't remember who else is on the panel, but I know it's Rafiki Morris on one of the panelists. And shout out to our friend and comrade in BAP DC, Gus Griffin, who is a professor at Montgomery College here in Tacoma Park. Some people say it's Maryland. Some people in DC claim Tacoma Park. I don't care. It's there. It's over there in Tacoma Park. The room number is CM211, and it's, again, that's Tuesday, the 27th, from 1 to 3 p.m. at Montgomery College. Room CM211, completely free. No tickets or admission needed. Let's see. Let me go back one. Is there another one before this one? Okay, there's that one. There's that one. There's that one. I think that's it. That's it. That's all we've got. Whew, for this week. It's enough. So hopefully Wednesday I'll be asleep. So oh, that's right. I forgot. Tacoma Park was a part of Prince George's County, but then they redrew the voting lines or whatever. So now I don't think anybody knows what Tacoma Park is. Tacoma Park is just a part of Maryland, or Maryland, as we in DC and Baltimore say. Anyway, thanks so much, y'all. Appreciate you very much for tuning in to Darker Than Blue and supporting me and Sean, and for sticking around and tuning in to more Luqman Nation. See you all later. Talk to you soon. Busy weekend. Oh, someone asked in the chat if the events will be live streamed. I do not know. I don't think the Montgomery College event will be live streamed. I don't know about the Congo rally. And it's very difficult to live stream a movie screening. So I don't think that's going to be live streamed either, but there may be video of all of these events after they happen. Okay. Thank y'all so much again. Have a good weekend. I'm going to be busy as hell. And I kind of like it that way. So y'all have a great weekend. Be good to yourselves and each other. And as always, Aluta continua. Come on, Jackie. Aluta continua. There you go. The struggle continues, but if we keep fighting, I promise you, Victoria Acerta. Sure sign that I've talked too much. Bye.